Mars in Aries over the next 2 months is going to break the ice. Wherever you have been shy, wherever you have been recluse, wherever you have been dormant, wherever you have been holding back, wherever you have been not wanting to make too much noise, wherever you wanted to avoid being the troublemaker, you were afraid of being the person who might disagree with the group or disagree with the pack. Constantly walk in circles around a decision, a direction, a commitment, where you're anticipating and waiting for somebody to say, hey, I will support you in that. I will help you in that. I will back you in that. This time, you stop waiting for that. Mars is supporting you to take action now over the next 2 months. If you miss this ride, if you miss this opportunity, early April, come on. If you miss this opportunity, you will regret it. This is the best opportunity to finally get it started, to finally take initiative, take action. And that could look like finally having a conversation that you've been avoiding. Putting your foot down. Stopping the false narratives. Putting a stop to the assumptions. Rescinding judgments over the self. Canceling warrants that are out for you on false cause. Canceling contracts that are with inappropriate powers and authorities. Nipping shit in the bud, getting the record straight. You might have to put niggas in their place. You might have to let somebody know this is not going to continue this way. This is how it's going to be from now on. This is what we're going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is where you finally don't require a permission slip, approval, acceptance. Because Mars is lending you the courage to assert your first house, to assert your identity. There's a particular expression that you have to stand in at the first house. There's a particular energy vibe that you're supposed to carry at the first house. There's a particular posture and approach to life that you are supposed to take at the first house. And what is behind that is the spirit of Aries. But that can't happen if you are making the mistake to be asking permission, to be waiting for agreement and support. It's now or never. You want to look at your Libra placement? This is where there could be smoke. This is where there could be opposition. You want to look at your Cancer placement? That's where there could be crisis brewing. Also at your Capricorn placement, there could be crisis brewing. At these points, you want to look into it and already anticipate the house themes and the persons or characters of those house themes who you may have to address. You already know who they are. That square to Cancer, you know who's in that house that you might have to address. That square to Capricorn, you know who's in that house that you might have to address. The opposition to Libra, you know who the characters are of the house that you may have to address. Anticipate it now. Expect it now. Clarify it now. And if it's not a person, it's a circumstance you may have to rectify. There may be some sacrifices to take on the axis of Cancer and Capricorn. You may have to do some harmonizing between Aries and Libra circumstances in your life. You already know what to expect. The transit of Mars into Aries will be 2 months of intensification of the Aries impulse, which is exponential to what we have been experiencing with the Aries Sun square Cancer Jupiter. Aries Sun square Cancer Jupiter is finding the balance between the support that you need to manifest and feel, the emotional security that you need to be able to stabilize yourself behind, while also taking the risk to fight the good fight as a spiritual warrior at the same time, without blowing or compromising your sense of security or dignity as well. finding the balance. With Mars coming into Aries, this will intensify exponentially. With Mars coming into Aries, this gives the boldness, the courage, the assertive will to say what hasn't been said and to do what hasn't been done because of hesitation, because of doubts, or the idea that I need to be very careful about what I say and what I do because I don't want to lose that Cancer Jupiter support or connection to what might mean emotional security for me that I'm getting out of someone or from someone. In opposition to that, that balance is the full moon Libra. Full moon Libra is what we are still attempting to close out. Because we are still attempting to close out the full moon Libra, what's at the back of our conscious is I need to balance this out. I have to balance out my relationship, circumstances, and terms. And what does balance look like according to the Libra full moon? That balance looks like harmonizing between the demand of Cancer Jupiter and the Aries impulse that we have. Aries impulse that we have asserting the identity truthfully, honestly, authentically, without apology, without hesitation, and without watering down who we are in that energy, which is clarified by Sagittarius second decan Black Moon Lilith. This is the energy that you're trying to incorporate into the asserted expression at that Aries point. But it has to find its balance and agreement. It has to find negotiation with the Cancer Jupiter expansion of the self, which is the sense of security, dignity, and the moral line that you don't want to cross. You're conscious that you want to be mindful of not violating your moral compass, your sense of right, wrong, good, or bad. You don't want to violate these things while also remaining strong and firm in your position. So it's a sensitivity of not wanting to rock the boat, but at the same time to hold a strong enough defense around the new claim of the identity status. Understand, the identity status. The identity status is something that requires you to fight, unfortunately. But the balance has to be there. So this full moon Libra is what we're still trying to close out as this happens. Mars coming into Aries, it supports you with more courage, with more boldness, with more strength. And some of us may say that it could cause you to become a little more aggressive and violent. I actually disagree, because I believe that when we feel true courage, when we feel true strength, boldness, confidence in the self, we are less likely to go off the handle or the deep end, because we trust ourselves enough to manage and meter out the flow of expression. So it tends to come out assertive but steady. Assertive but steady. This may not be the case for all of us. So it could look like, if we are not mindful or self-aware, tipping that balance where we compromise the status of security and emotional integrity, or the moral compass that we have concentrated at the Cancer Jupiter expansion circumstances of our life, going against that, causing a rupture there. So with Mars transiting through Aries, there will be 2 months of addressing many issues that we've been silent about, that we've been passive about, or that we have not directly went head on with dealing in our relationships, that sets the record straight, that corrects the narrative, that also sets the precedence of how you are to be treated from now on. This is you giving a good fight to make sure that your identity has full range in its expression of authenticity and not limited by any past themes of expectations of control, useful idiocy, other people gaining advantage over your docile nature or your hesitation to speak up for yourself or to assert your own identity and status out into the world, taking up space. And so this is a good time for the next 2 months where we will find that we finally set the record straight concerning the injustices, imbalances, inconsistencies, and lack of harmonization in our relationship terms and circumstances. By the time this 2 months are past, where Mars enters into Taurus out of Aries, our identity could feel more free, clarified, defended, put in its rightful place, to where we now can feel like our expression is something that either was accepted or rejected, and it helped you to decide and be decisive about where your destiny or your fated pathway could be headed at next, because you finally stood in a truthful measure with yourself as it relates to other people. This has been an ongoing subject. An ongoing subject where Cinderella finally comes out of the basement. Joseph, who was thrown in the well, he finally sits on his throne. Understand? So this is a turning point. This is where the underdog finally fights and speaks up for their self, and no longer being the underdog, no longer accepting that just because you got used to me being in this docile position, just because you've gotten used to me making life so convenient for you to take advantage of me or to undermine me, or to have me to be, the one who goes to the store for cigarettes and bagels, but I never get to express my identity into the status registry of life. No, the story changes now. The narrative changes now. Collectively, this could mean a lot for the men in our society. This can champion men who have been suppressed in society through feminism, where they've been silenced. The blue collar of our men rejected, isolated, alienated, looked down upon, frowned upon, laughed at, scoffed at, criticized, written off, pushed out into the wilderness to where their existence doesn't even matter. These underdogs are now going to come to full strength. They're going to come to full capacity. They're going to come to full boldness, because in the isolation that feminism has forced the males of society, the common men, that is, the ones who are not rich, over 6 feet tall with six packs and so on and so forth, the average men of society, this is a regeneration of their dignity, their strength, their pride, their courage, clarity in their identity, acceptance of their self, and a rejection of those narratives assumed over them that has them to be pushed down in society as some third-class citizens, okay, because of the narratives and the ongoing culture of feminism that is loudly expressed from the internet, okay, polluting the atmosphere with these ideals that only the 1 to 10% of men are even relevant. If they're not rich, they're not wealthy, they're not 6 feet tall with six packs and so on and so forth, they don't even exist. So this is males coming up in society with a regenerated sense of dignity, self-respect, and command over their narrative, over who they are, what their value is, what their status is. And this changes the course of how the sexual marketplace will now operate. This is something you want to look for. It's a conversation you may want to have with younger people of your family who may be in the world of dating, or even yourself, okay? It's very important to know that this is a turning point. This is a turning point where males of society are no longer going to be affected by or subject to or limited by the ideals of feminism. Understand that. And this also means that they're taking their chances in this square with Cancer Jupiter of losing the support that they otherwise would gain in complying, agreeing, or keeping silent about certain things that they notice and patterns that they notice, or status that they notice in the sexual marketplace concerning the opposite sex. Because remember, this is a full moon Libra, which hosts the feminist spirit. Okay, it's a closing out of the feminist agreement, and with this closing out, this in the collective conscience of males and females are both closing out this story and legacy. It will no longer have a zap. It no longer will have electricity. It no longer will have power. It's like cutting off the switch to this spirit, to this regime. And so everything changes now as far as the dynamics between males and females in society and what effect, leverage, influence, or ongoing legacies that feminism used to have as advantage over the masculine principle. That is now over.